Chapter 737, Gift Box. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. I see. Refining the Dragon King's blood isn't so simple after all. It finally dawned on Zhang Yuochen. Every force had a god they believed in. The moon-worshipped demonic sect believed in the moon god, while the divine dragon and half-human clan worshipped the dragon god. The Zhang family that had ruled the sacred Central Empire had worshipped the sacred god. Each force used sacrifice rituals to communicate with their god. They could only produce divine blood with a god's power and, from there, create a deity print. Alxinian told Zhang Yuochen the secret to opening the Dragon King blood seal. Then he took out a translucent divine bone and handed it to Zhang Yuochen. The divine bone was uneven and looked like a coral made of jade. A ball of red light shone from the inside. It was more blinding than the sun. One could vaguely make out that it was a ball of liquid. More accurately, it was 12 drops of the dragon god's blood. The energy that the Dragon King's blood contained was as terrifying as ever. By saving it in the divine bone, the blood's aura wouldn't be lost, but it would be covered. Group leader, I'll enter the scroll world first to cultivate in isolation and try for the 9th change of the fish dragon realm. Alxinian clearly had a pill, which was why he wanted to improve his cultivation so impatiently. Zhang Yuochen sent Alxinian to the scroll world but stayed outside himself. He seemed to be deep in thought. Afterward, he prepared a gift box and placed 1,000 drops of Xuanwu sacred blood and 5 drops of the Dragon King's blood in. Then he used an inscription to seal the box. Zhang Yuochen carried the box with one hand and kept the other hand behind his back. He walked towards the closed door to Huang Yanshen's room. Standing outside the stone door, he stood up straight and announced, "Lin Yui has prepared a gift and would like to see Miss Yanshen. Are you free right now?" No response came from inside the room, but Zhang Yuochen was very patient. He stood outside calmly, expressing sufficient genuine feelings. Scritch, scritch. Around 15 minutes later, the heavy stone door opened slowly. Huang Yanshen walked out and stood before the door. Her figure was tall and slender and she stared straight at Zhang Yuochen with her blue eyes. Then she glanced at Zhang Yuochen's box and said skeptically, "As far as I know, you're close with junior sister apprentice Ao these days. How come you're giving me a gift now? I didn't think you'd be such a player." Zhang Yuochen's smile remained. "Actually, I did business with Miss Ao recently and received many treasures from it. This is why I've brought some for Miss Yanshen. I hope you can accept it." Then he added, "I only want to be friends with you, nothing more." Huang Yanshen did like Lin Yui's character and thought it would be worth it to be friends. Otherwise, she wouldn't meet him alone and say so much to him. It seems that the Divine Dragon Bone really did help you get many treasures from the Divine Dragon and half-human clan. Huang Yanshen's goal was take revenge on the 9 Serenity Sword Saint, and this required a large amount of cultivation resources. Thus, she accepted the gift without embarrassment. "What did you give me?" Evidently, Huang Yanshen didn't think that Lin Yui could give her anything valuable, so she seemed not to care too much. 5 drops of the Dragon King's blood and 1,000 drops of Xuanwu sacred blood, Zhang Yuochen answered. Huang Yanshen's hands froze immediately. Her head shot up and shock was written across her beautiful face. She thought she'd heard incorrectly. Dragon King's blood? Xuanwu sacred blood? The value of Xuanwu sacred blood by itself was unmatched, and a single drop was worth a city. Dragon King's blood was even more so. Back then, Zhang Yuochen had only refined a drop of Xuanwu sacred blood and went from the first change of the fish dragon realm to the second change. One could see Xuanwu sacred blood's significance just from that. 1,000 drops was much more than a half-saint family's entire treasury. As for the Dragon King's blood, it was too valuable to even be bought with money. 1,000 drops of Xuanwu sacred blood and 5 drops of Dragon King's blood were equal to the entire wealth of a slightly weaker saint. Even the wealthy Zhu Yui didn't have this. Was Lin Yui wealthier than Zhu Yui? Thus, Huang Yanshen didn't believe that the gift box really contained the blood. When she opened the box, she froze. "You're really giving me 1,000 drops of Xuanwu sacred blood and 5 drops of Dragon King's blood?" Clearly, she didn't believe it at all. Seeing the changes in her expression, Zhang Yuochen was happy inside, but he just said calmly, Of course, he gave such an immense amount of cultivation resources to Huang Yanjun because he understood her situation clearly. She was one of the heirs to the East Region Saint Mansion. She needed a lot of wealth and many resources to make connections and grow her own force and followers. Huang Yanjun's parents were half saints, but they couldn't afford these expenses at all. Zhang Yuochen was obviously willing to help her so her situation in the East Region Saint Mansion wouldn't be so awkward. Suddenly, Huang Yanchen trembled and her head shot up. "Where did you get the Xuanwu sacred blood?" she asked coldly as if interrogating him. Huang Yanchen had refined the blue fire Xuanwu's holy source, so she was extremely familiar with that kind of sacred blood. The Xuanwu sacred blood that Lin Yue had given her was from the blue fire Xuanwu. Zhang Yuochen had prepared for this, so he remained calm. "Xuanwu sacred blood? The holy book's genius girl gave it to me." Apparently, the imperial court received the body of a blue fire Xuanwu and refined 10,000 drops of sacred blood. Huang Yanjun clenched her fists tightly, her nails digging into her flesh. 2 drops of crystal tears rolled from her frigid eyes. She knew that the imperial court must have found the blue fire Xuanwu's body among Zhang Yuochen's possessions. It must have been like that. Seeing Huang Yanjun's sadness, Zhang Yuochen sighed inwardly. He didn't worry about Huang Yanchen seeing through his lie. After all, everyone knew that Lin Yue's relationship with the holy book's genius was unique. Huang Yanchen also wouldn't go verify it with her. "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now." Seeing that Huang Yanchen was emotional, Zhang Yuochen clasped his hands together and left quickly. He didn't turn around until he was far away. He saw Huang Yanchen kneeling, her arms outstretched before her, not caring about her image at all. She seemed heartbroken and her tears kept falling onto the floor. Zhang Yuochen sighed again. He felt bitter inside, but this was life. Loving someone didn't mean receiving. One sometimes had to give as well. Returning to the closed stone room, Zhang Yuochen worked to compose himself and then he entered the scroll world. There was some time before the Kunlun's banquet. Zhang Yuochen prepared to work towards the 4-spirit treasured body. Only then could he have the ability to fight against Tuyang Huan.